Is it fair that local authorities have to take the blame for having to increase council tax?
You know perfectly well what the issue is. Local councils have lost 40% of their money from central government, and they're lumbered with having to raise it from the rate from house
a whole
owners.
series of settlements. We want to make sure that business rates, which are raised locally and historically go whistling back to Westminster, are actually kept and spent locally. To me, this is about changing the funding base, so it's actually more money is raised locally and spent locally.
Do you think it's fair, Rachel?
No, I think the government's passing the buck to local councils, particularly on social care. There's been something like £6 billion cut from the social care budgets alone, and that's the reason for our NHS crisis now this winter.
The Tories have always been the party of indirect taxation, so they would always tax in a way where you couldn't blame them directly. You know, back in the old days when we had a nationalised gas and electricity and water and stuff like that, if your water or your gas bill went up, you blamed the government, or you blamed your local council directly. Once you've privatised it, you take that away. And so it's like, oh, it's nothing to do with us. And this is the problem now with libraries shutting down. Everywhere's creaking because the whole country is in a mess. And to use a quite vacuous statement, which is used a lot nowadays, I think it's what they say, no deal is better than a bad deal. I'd say no leader is better than a bad leader. And at the moment, we've got no leadership in this country. We've got no government.
We can either increase borrowing, or we can put up taxes, or we can cut costs. And I think councils have cut costs very effectively across the country over the last few years. People have done an amazing job and found lots of efficiencies.
Well,
so we have a choice. Do we put up taxes? Yes, a round of applause for you, I think.
You say the local authorities it's better if they get the money locally and funded. You stop them raising the money they get by limiting it at 6%. You don't let them. You don't let them raise the money that they might need to do this.
But when I meet people increasingly, people say, "I'd be happy to pay a bit more for the NHS and for social care." We have to make these choices. I think putting money into social care and vulnerable children is a really good justification for raising taxes. Well, the councils will do it, Terry, because they're raising.
It's a cynical exercise in blame pushing. No, you know it is. You don't believe a word of what you say.
It's the least fair way of raising money for social care, because the richest councils, by definition, can raise the most from council tax, and it's the poorest councils that have to pay the most for social care, because they have the fewest people who can afford to pay for their own care. So it's the imbalance. That's why it has to be a national system.
In the end, right, local authorities' major income comes from central government, and that is a truth. And to put up council tax will never make up for the amount that councils are losing centrally from government. And on average, it's 40% cuts, but you're absolutely right. Guess what? The poorest areas are the ones that are getting the biggest cuts. So you're not alone in the North East. Deprived inner-city boroughs like mine, we've got 60% cuts in my area, where I have some of the worst child poverty in the country. So what they're doing is that they're cutting back the fund centrally, and then what they do is they decentralise the blame, so that they cut their money from central government, and then local people say, what's happened to our bin service? Why are our streets so dirty? What is going on? And they blame the councillors. But actually, it's central government, and it is being done deliberately, and the chickens are coming home to roost. That is what's happening. And we know that the people who really suffer are those who are the most vulnerable, because councils absolutely have to look after children who are on the verge of going into care, and they don't have enough money. And councils have been telling this government, pleading with this government, councils of every stripe, and they just have cloth ears on this and will not listen.
But, you know, it is about choices.
And the government has to have the courage to make that choice.
Terry would love to print money. You can't just print money.
You've got no choice if you need social care.
Correct.
Right? So if you are homeless, you've got no choice. If you are terminally ill and you need a carer, you've got no choice. If you are disabled, you have no choice. So all of this nonsense about you've got a choice, of course you haven't. Get into the real world.
All right.